Okay, Gills fans, welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood Team. With it is actually a slightly impromptu one, given the news on Thursday afternoon that a certain Mr. Bradley Dack had returned to ME7 for a second spell at Gillingham, and I'm pleased to say at short notice. So I'm very appreciative of the time of both Luke Teachen, Gills fan, and of course, managing director, instantly recognisable Joe Compa. Gentlemen, first of all, appreciate you coming on to talk to us all about the return of hashtag Dack is back.
No, you said I'm instantly recording. Isn't that the guy from Luke's 11?
Oh, yeah.
We allowed to talk about him from another panel.
It's also the guy that got loads of free drinks at the end of season dinner because he kept telling Ollie Hawkins that he was Johnny Williams.
I think it was more that he was saying I was an older Johnny Williams, more vintaged.
You never put him correct and just kept taking free.
No, I kept on taking the shots. If I'm being honest, yeah.
Of course, we're not here to talk about last season's end of season dinner and shenanigans in the factory bar. We are, of course, set to talk about the fact that after 2,604 days away, when he left for Blackburn on the 30th of June 2017, it was announced yesterday afternoon, after plenty of work, I'm sure, from Mr. Compa, Mr. Jacket, the Gallinsons, Mr. Bonner, and some other people. Bradley Dack has returned for a second spell at Gills after 185 appearances, 38 goals and 34 assists in his initial spell. I'm going to come to you first, Luke, just to get a fan perspective of it. Excited. Yep. It's probably the first emotion that we got. Obviously, it's tempered with some concerns based on an injury record that Bradley's had over the last few years. But no, just give us your initial reaction to it when the news finally did become official. Because we know social media is an absolute nightmare for leaks and whispers, and I'm sure it's the bane of Joe's life. But
yeah, so I think it was a bit overwhelmed with the news, and if I'm being completely honest, never did I think when he left back in 2017 would we ever see him back in a Gill shirt? Definitely not. Probably not. If he hadn't carried these injuries, 100% would have been a Premier League player. So would we ever think we would have him back at ME7? No. Watching the announcement video, obviously in our group chat that we've got, it was slightly emotional, should I say? Did nearly well up a little bit. It was some overriding feelings, and then when I was watching Dack's interview with Phil, I just couldn't stop smiling. It was, you could tell he's so happy to be back. I picked up on Bonner's interview with the Kent Online. He said, he looked into his eyes and sees that a player that wants to be here. Obviously, deep inside, Bradley might want to be proving a few Mackems wrong, that he's still capable of playing at the highest level. Obviously, as always, there is concerns that he has had some serious injuries, but obviously with the due diligence that Joe and the team have done with an extensive medical, I think we can only hope and pray that he can. He's in good shape. He can give us a good amount of game time, and he's the player that probably you can tell how well it's gone down, because all the other fans from other clubs in League Two and League One are so salty about it that they're gonna. That he's going to break down. He's not going to be able to play. It's not going to be a romantic story. But if Bradley would have signed for them, I think they'd have been over the moon.
Yeah, it's always quite a good gauge, isn't it? The reactions of fans of former clubs and that type of thing, and you take a lot of it with a pinch of salt. Maybe literally in this case with a few fans, but I think my initial reaction before I come to Joe was the fact that I think when it first broke a few weeks ago, the link. I think I was torn between the excitement and the romanticism of a returning hero, so to speak, because we have to be aware now that he's 30 years old and he's had major injuries to both knees. But yeah, I think similarly, like you said in that WhatsApp group that we've got, I couldn't help but just grin from ear to ear watching the wind it back video that was put out by Nick. So fair play to Nick for putting that together, a montage of former goals. And I mean, the haircut needs probably a little bit of work now, but if he goes and scores 10 goals and gets us promoted, I'm sure we'll all be dyeing it blonde this time next year. But I'm going to come to you, Joe, because obviously myself and Luke can sit here and you can look at supporters' reactions on social media, and we can just do it as a supporter. You and the team obviously have to look at all the whys and wherefores from a business perspective as well, rather than just the sentimental approach and what he can bring us as a football player at his best. Because like Luke said, if he was at his best and he'd not had injuries, his career would have been going in an upward trajectory still, and we'd have had no chance. So obviously there's reasons why we firstly came back into the reckoning, and secondly managed to get the deal over the line. So if you can just talk us through that, that'd be brilliant. Your thought process behind it, and whether you were torn between yes or no, and what ultimately tipped you over the line to say, yeah, let's get it done and bring him back.
Yeah, so I mean, we had a policy at the start of the summer about bringing in people who are robust, or will play a lot of games and have a sort of a history of playing the majority of the season, right? And that's what we did with our well, certainly our first 5 signings, and then you and Williams as well. And obviously Bradley's a little bit different to that, and outside of that. But as the window's been going on, I'm sure he probably could have played higher up and wanted to play higher up. And it was a few weeks, I think it was before the Millwall game actually that it come up. And Hess had sort of brought it to the group, if you like, that work on these things, and you can't help but go, oh, that's interesting, like you everybody would be the same. And then you've got to sit there and go, okay, how do we make this happen in terms of, we're not going to go, oh, brilliant, let's spend really big money on this. Like a fit Bradley Dack isn't even like without the history of injuries, he's not even in League Two. We know that, right? No. So we can't go and go, oh, we're going to spend this big money, because that wouldn't be sensible. However, you have got a player there who, if he's on the pitch often and contributing often, he will be he'll probably be the best player in the league, right? So, and he deserves to be paid for it. So, it took a long time. I would say out of all the transfers we've done, it was the most up and down in terms of, it's going to happen. No, it's not. It's going to happen. No, it's not. For a whole host of it, it's really complicated. Really complicated for us to do. And it actually is interesting. It actually got to the stage where you almost got passed up to Brad to do, which is unusual. Normally, the negotiations will happen sort of between Kenny, and then it comes to me, at a certain stage. Whereas this one, it sort of went to Brad, because it gets to a point where you go, look, we know all the risks. Here are all the risks. Everybody knows that. And it's hard to go and spend somebody else's money when there is that risk, right? So it actually went to Brad, and he was a lot more involved in this one than any other, because and it was sort of laid out that the medical team, the science team, laid out all the details. Mark, from a footballing point of view, really keen. He understands the player that he's got, and he has a plan of how he can utilize Bradley as best he can. So there was his input from a football point of view. We had the medical point of view, and then really it was, here you go, Brad. You've got all of the information. You choose whether you want to spend your money, and fair play to him. He's he's really backed Mark. I think there was a big part of it was the romance of the coming back, that the fans would love it, and ultimately the hope is we've got a player who makes the difference as the season goes on.
Absolutely, yeah, and like you said, there must have been so many times when you thought it was happening. Like you said, it was dead in the water. We had people on social media saying that I think Barnsley and Wrexham had come in from League One, and so as a fan, you see that on social media, you think we've got no chance, especially Wrexham, the money they've got and the clout that they can chuck at players. I guess the big thing that we had was obviously the pulling on Bradley's heartstrings, so to speak, and the fact that we are the club that gave him his chance 10, 11, 12 years ago and made him the player that he was, that earned him that move to Ewood Park a few years ago. In terms of, I've written down next deal process, which is obviously you, Joe, because I was going to ask you about, but you seem to have filled in a few of the gaps there. But yeah, just in terms of how the link first came about and how long it took from first contact with. So you said it was Hesse, you think, that brought it to the attention of everyone else, because Hesse would have had more of a link to him from previous spells at the football club, whereas the rest of you wouldn't have had that tie-in before. But yeah, if you could just sort of, as quick as you can, just tell us what the journey was from a recruitment point of view, because it's not something that we see on social media. We get, say, rumours and that type of thing, yeah.
It was one. I mean, we have a whole host of analytics on all different players. Right, we watch it, and we did even run some analytics on Bradley Dack. It was obviously a waste of time. It just shows that he's unbelievable. So really, that was a waste of time in this one. But yeah, it was very much Hess that brought it to the table, and was like because he knew him from his spell here before. And was very much like, what a great character, great bloke, really interesting. So yeah, that came about, and then there was never any chance of him going anywhere else in League Two. If he was coming to League Two, it was because he was coming to play for Gillingham. That was it. I think there was talk of offers at a higher level, and I don't know how that went. I wasn't involved in that, but there was always the possibility of him coming to us purely because of the romance of it. So it did take quite a long time, probably because, as I said to you a minute ago, it's a very complex one, and it is really, he probably could have played anywhere within 3 divisions if you include us sort of in League Two, and Championship clubs probably would have had Bradley Dack in a conversation, like in a list or on a conversation. So it was quite unusual. So yeah, it took a period of time, but yeah, very much Hes brought it to us, and then I picked it up for a period of time, and then at the end it was very much Brad actually, and even dealing with the agent and speaking to Bradley himself and making he was comfortable. And Mark had met him a couple of times, and he said about looking him in the eye. That was, Mark very much what he likes to do that with all the players. He meets all the players, speaks to them, and gets an idea of what their character is like as well. So yeah, it was a lot of people involved in this one.
Excellent. No, not say. I appreciate that, because it's just something that we don't see. We just get, oh, he's signed, and then we get an article saying he's arrived. We get a contract length, or it's not disclosed, and all that type of thing. So it's great to be able to sort of pick your brains and get the background story a little bit. Let's look at stats now, Luke, and I'll come to you. If we break it down club by club, obviously, so Gillingham was 185 games, 38 goals, 34 assists. He played 11,677 minutes with us the first time around at 63.1 minutes per game. Joe can probably tell you all this because he's done all his research. So it worked out at 0.21 goals per game and 0.18 assists per game, which if you break it down over a 46-game season was about 17 or 18 goal contributions per 90 minutes. Of course, that earned him a move to Blackburn Rovers, where he played 173 times, scored 57 goals and contributed 28 assists, 10,786 minutes, and that minutes per game was not too different at 62.3. And yeah, I think he was averaging around about 22 goal contributions per season in his time. Obviously, that's the bare numbers. So if you look, but like Joe said, you don't need to look at Bradley Dack's numbers. They're very good because it's glaring. It's there for everybody to see what a good footballer is. And it comes back to the point that if he'd not had the 2 ACL injuries, we're not in the running because he's still playing top-end Championship, or dare I say, the Premier League. So the goal and the assist tell their own story. It's when it gets a bit more complicated is the minutes per game. Yeah, so obviously the concern for the injuries is from 2017 to 2020, he played 106 games at 80 minutes per game before the ACL. Since then, there's been 4 seasons. It's only 68 games. So around about 35 less games in a season more, and only at 42.33 minutes per game. So how much of a concern do you think that second half of his career since leaving Gills is?
Yeah, I think we all know what the concerns are, but I think one thing that we've also got with Bonner is that he guided a very senior Wes Hoolahan in his, was it late 30s at Cambridge, guiding them through a promotion-winning team. So I think one thing that would say that we've got up our sleeve slightly is that we've also got a player that plays in the number 10 that can't play or hasn't played a full 90 for us either, in Johnny Williams. So there could be an opportunity for rotation between Dack and Johnny. I don't think we need to be pushing Bradley for 90 minutes each week. And I think that's something that, like I said, we've got up our sleeve a little bit, that we don't need to push him that hard. I think if you're looking at the stats, that if we're getting 60 minutes and you've got Johnny Williams coming off the bench, then that's not a bad replacement for Bradley at all. But I think it's just going to be about how he's managed, and I think obviously Mark's got that in abundance from his time at Cambridge. So I think it's just about how we manage him. If he seems fit from the interview that he's given us, obviously he's going to say that, but I think it's just about how he's managed, and we don't need to push him too hard too soon, because, like I say, we have got Johnny Williams, we have got Ewan Williams who plays in that position, but even a 75% Bradley Dack is still probably the best player in League Two, for being completely honest. But yeah, I think it's all about management, and not pushing too hard in the first instance, and hopefully none of them old injuries flare up.
Absolutely. And I'll come to you, Joe, again, obviously from a more business perspective, and the fact that you have to spend Brad's dollars. It's not just a case of us going, oh yeah, we're fans of Bradley Dack, it's great, it's sentimental, it's brilliant, let's get him in. We know that, and it's not a computer game as well. But to caveat what we've said about the minutes per game dropping off over the last 4 seasons, and we know why, because there were 2 huge injuries where he lost the best part of probably 2 years to his career. The second ACL, he actually came back from in March 2022, which I think does get a little bit forgotten. So it's been 2.5 years now, essentially, where he's been fit in terms of not having major injuries. There's probably niggles and strains and that type of thing. And I think he picked up a slight problem at Sunderland, which was what curtailed his time there. But how much more meticulous did you perhaps have to be with the medical research and the background checks, just purely because you know that he's ruptured both ACLs in the last few seasons, which is obviously a huge problem for a professional footballer?
Yeah, it's quite funny, the medical Minty, who's their sort of head physio, and Jammer, who's the head of sports science. They both start and go, well, we know all the problems, and it's a really way to start a medical, normally these things are like, overwhelmingly positive, and it might be this and this, but this one was just from the off. But that's there's nothing that we didn't know. It's all out there. One thing that was interesting and that was good was that Bradley knows. He knows his injuries. He knows what it means. He knows what he can and can't do, and he knows their limitations. And really, they gave a very good sort of assessment on this is what success looks like. Yeah, I'm not going to go into the details here, but if he manages this many games in the season, we as a medical team will deem that a success. Mm-hmm. There's a chance it could be less than that. There is a chance it could be a little bit more, but mm-hmm. we sort of have a game of we have a goal, if you like, and an expectation of, okay, if we get this many appearances out of him this season, that's what we've budgeted for, if you like, in terms of cost. So that's where we're at. You never know with anybody exactly what you're going to get out of them, but we know that's sort of what we've judged the risk on it, if you like. It's not actually really the 2 ACLs themselves that are the biggest cause for concern. It's the repercussions off of those that will that could mean we've got to be a bit careful. But there'll be a period of time where we make sure he's not injured, he's fit. You see the training today, he's out there. It's just now a case of building up to make sure that we do it properly, we do it slowly. There's no point in rushing back just because we want to get him on the pitch and it costing us as the season goes on. So there'll be a period of time where we do it properly, and then we hopefully will see him soon.
And like you say, he's 30 now, so he understands his body. If youngsters, if they maybe have a big injury, they think they can come back a little bit quicker. But being that much older now, Bradley, and having 2, he probably is very aware that he's got to make sure that the groundwork's all done correctly before he can start firing on all cylinders and hopefully affecting football matches, which he said in the interview with Phil yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, that's it. And everyone's eyes wide open. Everyone knows where we're at, we'll see whether it pays off. Hopefully he gets on the pitch plenty of times, and I'm sure when he does, because of the quality of the player he is, he's going to make a difference for us.
Absolutely, and that's the reason Brad's ultimately sanctioned it. The man himself, of course, is Bradley Dack, and we've seen plenty of opinions and posts on social media from fans of previous clubs, predominantly Sunderland, who it's fair to say didn't see the best of Bradley Dack because of the fact that he picked up this hamstring problem. I think it was halfway through last season, so he only played 17 games for them. They've been very sort of vocal in saying, don't expect too much. His legs have gone, his body's not working, he's breaking down. There was also a question mark over motivation. Now, for me, I'd say I don't think there's any issue in terms of Bradley Dack returning for some sort of winding down of his career. He wouldn't do that to the football club, I don't think, purely because of the links he has here previously. Obviously, we can't get away from the injuries. Like Joe has said, they're there for everybody to see. So there is a risk, but sometimes a risk is worth taking, isn't it? And it's the old adage: if you don't buy a raffle ticket, you don't win a prize. Luke, I'll come to you. What do you think Bradley Dack's motivation is to come back home, as we've been calling it? Is it to prove the doubters wrong solely, or is it to get us back into League One, which he's mentioned in his interview with the media team yesterday, or is it a combination of both?
I'd say it's a combination of both. And I think, like, if you listen to his interview yesterday as well, he also mentions that he was fit and available for selection towards the end of the season last year. And obviously, you do have a certain Joe Bellingham that was keeping him out of the side there as well. So it's not like he was, the talent in front of him was. But yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. I think he's got a point to prove over the last couple of seasons with his injuries. He obviously clearly still loves the club, and as he's rightly said, he wants to get on the pitch, score goals, and send us back into League One. But I think I don't think there's any kind of winding down. He looks too hungry, and again, obviously Joe probably knows better for me. Look, like I say, with Mark Bonner looking in the whites of his eyes, obviously Joe's sat down with as well, and I don't think they're going to sign a player that's coming for a payday. So yeah, I think it's a mixture of both.
Well, we don't know what he's being paid, so we're not asking Joe before.
Yeah.
It might not be much. It might not be much of a payday. We don't know, do we? We're all just assuming. But yeah, Joe. Obviously, I'm assuming you've spent time with Bradley over the last few weeks. Yourself, Mark, Brad, Shannon, Kenny. Everybody has had a chat with him, and I know he's got links to. I think is it Anthony Hayes as well from his time at Charlton. He knows Johnny in terms of youth football, and obviously remember he played with Glenn and Max Amer the last time around. Yeah, what are we getting from Bradley Dack in the longer term? And do you think? I'm assuming there would have been absolutely no chance we'd have even contemplated the deal if you or Mark or Kenny or Hesse had thought there was that Bradley was only returning for the wrong type of reasons.
Yeah, I don't listen. If it was just like a payday, as you called it there, I'm sure he could have found that at plenty of other places. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think that's not a motivation. There was a lot of contact. He spoke with Mark a few times, including in person, on the phone. There was a lot of contact there. He spoke with Brad on the phone. One of the nice things, you always do due diligence on a player. You do as much as you can. In football, everyone knows somebody, right? Everybody knows somebody at some club. Now, the nice thing about doing due diligence on Bradley Dack is you walk up a flight of stairs and there's 3 people on the 3rd floor who have worked closely with him, right? So you got Brian Ball even in the academy who brought him through.
Bullshit.
You've got Hess who was with him in his first spell at Gillingham. You've got Anthony Hayes who was with him last year at Sunderland. Literally all on the same floor. Who are all going, great lad, great character, will drive standards, is going to push us on. And then you go downstairs and you've got Max Amer who knows him well and has played with him and he's going, brilliant, get him in, the lads will love him, and it's like, so that's really helpful where you can always do your due diligence in-house. Obviously, we've spoken elsewhere as well, but so I've got no concerns. I think he's going to be a great influence on our squad. We've also got some young players. People don't really talk about it too much, but when you think about Jack Nolan, Aaron Rowe, even like even Coleman, sort of 24, but there's some young players in this squad, and I think someone who's been there, done it, played at a high level, know what it takes. Like it'd be someone for those boys to look up to. So yeah, I think he brings a lot off the pitch as well as on the pitch.
So you be careful now. You're starting to give us Dion Burton 2012, 2013 vibes. Not getting ahead of myself. Maybe just a little bit. No, appreciate the time of both of you. Like I say, it's a very exciting signing in terms of because it is Bradley Dack for no other reason than that, and it's just great to have him back at his spiritual home, like we've said. Final couple of questions. Well, firstly, I'll come to you, Luke, if you've got anything else to add before we start wrapping the episode up.
No, probably a bit of a to you as well, Joe. Like, obviously, thank you, Brad and Hesse and Kenny Jackett. Obviously, I did give them some absolute pelters towards the end of last season for the recruitment, and you guys have done a tremendous job this summer. And long may it continue.
That brings me on quite nicely then, Joe, in terms of transfer business, because we are only a couple of weeks away now from the window slamming shut. We do have a couple of players that are still available for transfer in Ollie Hawkins and George Lapsley. But can we say that we're pretty much, if not quite done, very close to being done and where we want to be with transfers now, unless one or both of them leaves the football club in the next 14 or so days?
Yeah, I'm reluctant to say anything with any sort of certainty. But
Right, let me rephrase it. Are you happy? Are you happy with where we're at as it stands?
100%. Right,
There we go. I knew I've got to get an answer out of you. I'm not having you sitting on the fence.
You probably saw my tweets earlier on.
I did, yes. He's fairly reliable normally, which was quite a shock to me.
Yeah, he's normally the oracle of EFL.
Yeah, well, he's usually quite trustworthy, Peter O'Rourke. Yeah. So you've just ruined his life.
I'm watching one yesterday, and then the problem is all the forums start going, and people are like, "Oh yeah, Cardew at Barnet," and I'm thinking, well, I'm pretty sure it hasn't, because if someone was putting in a bid, it would have been me sending the email. So I'm like, I don't think it's happened. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll let that one go. And then you see another one the next day, and you think it's agents. So I don't think it's necessarily Pete who's doing it. It's agents who are going, oh, we'll throw Gillingham in there because people will go, oh, Gillingham are interested. Maybe we should have a look. And it's just frustrating because it gets all the fans up. And I'd rather. We've been trying to be really transparent, really honest, and set expectations. So you remember I somehow coined this phrase completely by accident, phase one. And then, right, just
phase one was fine. It was phase two you got in trouble for.
Yeah, but it was more what we did that to go, look, just so you're aware, like, chill out for a few weeks. Like, nothing more is going to happen, and you set that expectation and people go, great, really happy with that. So, and we just, as being open and honest as we can. And then when you see people going, oh, this might happen and this might happen, it almost seems like when it doesn't happen, the fans will say, oh, well, yeah, they couldn't get Carnu. They tried. And you think, no, we didn't. Didn't even put a bid in. So, yeah, I'm not going to make a habit of quelling rumours on X. But, yeah, just sort of thought today, twice in 2 days, I put an end to it. But, yeah, I don't expect there to be much more. There might be a couple out, might be a couple of younger boys on loan, that sort of thing. But I think really now it's get our heads down and try and win as many football matches as we can.
Do you, before we finally say this is the end of the episode, do you feel like once that window slams shut, then it's go time? It's really go time then, and we know what we're working with for the next few months, and it's time, like you say, to knuckle down, focus, and we go with what we've got, because it's all a bit, like you say, it's up in the air through August, because you still don't know quite who might be there at the end of the month, who might leave, who might come in. So for you, does it settle down 1st of September, and that's when we start seeing the best of Mark Bonner's work and the football club?
If I'm honest, I think it's already go time. It's already settled down, and the reason I say that, we did our business early. We did it intentionally that way. We've spoken about it so much, but we brought in a manager very quickly. We brought in 4 signings very quickly that we were key, and then we've done a couple bits throughout, but we intentionally did the bulk of our business really early, really quickly. Mark's had a full pre-season to work with them. I mean, we have a horrendous injury list at the moment. Like, it's mad, and we almost got to get by. But I don't think the transfer window should cause us too much unrest at this stage. You never know what's going to happen. Someone might come in and chuck a bid in that we can't turn down. But really, I think the squad is settled, the management is settled, and barring some minor tweaks, maybe, yeah, I don't think there's anything that's going to throw a grenade into what we're doing. Mark is focused. He's certainly talking a lot less about recruitment than he was a month or so ago. It's a lot more about the team he's got and working with them.
That's it, yeah. And like I think he said in his press conference ahead of Saturday's game, didn't he? The fact that like in 4 weeks we should have Josh, Elliot, Ethan, and Bradley all up to speed. It'll essentially be like 4 more new signings, because we've obviously not had them from game 1. So it'll almost be like a little boost again at the middle of September, hopefully.
When is this going out?
Straight after we've recorded.
Okay, fine. I'll keep my mouth shut.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
it's almost an exclusive, but it's not an exclusive.
Yeah, that's where it goes out. People sometimes will go, oh, why don't they tell us about what's going on in the squad? And you think you don't want to tell anyone what's going on in the squad, because if Gills in the blood know about it, then so do Morecambe. So yeah, I won't give anything away, but but yeah, so we got a few. He's my youngest. We got a few injury problems, but yeah, we're hopeful. There's nothing too drastic. And this is the head of recruitment, really. She's the one who. Yeah, so we've got. Yeah, we got a few injuries, but nothing too severe. We don't think nothing too long term, so should be okay.
Good. Right, the appearance of little Compo is probably a good time to wrap this up, so you can go and sort your children out, Joe. So thankfully, appreciate your time. Like I say, it was very short notice. I think it was mid-afternoon that I asked you, so we really are thankful that you've come on to give us a little bit more info about what's been going on with the Bradley Dack deal. And of course, thank you to Luke. Appreciate your time, mate. It's been good to chat. Unfortunately, no match day live this weekend. I'm not travelling up to Morecambe because of a previously arranged family barbecue. So you'll have this to get your teeth stuck into over the weekend. I will be back Sunday with Reece to hopefully review another 3 points and a decent performance on the road. But until then, enjoy your weekend. And most importantly, up the Gills.